Hi, it's Sherry Killergis with At 45, live in Vancouver. And today we are continuing our series of Women in Art. And I am so pleased to have with me Katayoon Webb from Vancouver. Welcome, Katayoon.
Hi, Sherry. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's wonderful to have you. I am looking so forward to learning more about your art and also the fascinating things that you're doing with your art. Now, I understand that besides being an artist, you're also a home staging company as well as in real estate. That's a fascinating combination.
It sure is interesting. Yes. So yeah, I basically I started as an artist and studied art and at a very young age, and I was really fortunate enough to have parents, which is very, very rare for Persian parents to be okay for their children to be in arts. My dad was an artist, so he was okay for me to be in arts because usually, like, there's this stereo thing that they say, oh, if your kid's really smart, the kid needs to be a doctor or an engineer. So my parents were actually, I'm really grateful that they actually allowed me to study art, even though I was smart. Even like when they took me to the art school, I attended a special fine arts school, high school. When they took me to the high school, the principal said, "Why did you bring her here? She's got A+ in math and physics and stuff. Why is she here?" Because she just expected everybody that goes to the art school not to be very bright. And that was the unfortunate thing. But yeah, no, my parents insisted that no, this is what she wants. She wants to be an artist, and we are okay with it. So they allowed me to attend a art school as my high school was a fine art, like the specialization was graphic design and architecture. And then later on, I chose to be in graphic design. And then I was bright. I got into university right. Actually, before even I finished my high school, I got accepted in university. But then I was getting questioned. My art was getting questioned as being too provocative. And from where I come from Iran, that was I was getting in trouble. I was getting written up because the art was too provocative, and I basically I feared that I'd be thrown out of university because as a woman, you're not really allowed to be very outspoken and very out there, and your art's not supposed to be too provocative. And unfortunately, mine was. So that's how the decision was made collectively with my family, and we had some family here that back there in Montreal knew about Concordia University, knew also about Emily Carr, but between Concordia University Fine Art Program and Emily Carr, Concordia just made more sense for my family because we had extended friends and family in Montreal. So that's how I got shipped to Canada and basically started a fine art. A few years after, once I learned English, I didn't even know how to speak English. I was 18, and so I got accepted to the fine art program, and I did my specialization is painting, Bachelor of Fine Arts, but then I got a minor in psychology. I was kind of hoping to be an art therapist, but then life changed. I and I got into real estate and loved it. And from the very beginning, I realized people had beautiful homes, but what was always missing, that not a lot of people have original art in their homes, or not a lot of people have necessarily like matching art with their decor, with their soft pillows or beddings or towels or things like that. So I started just bringing like one painting, two paintings here and there, decorating one room, two rooms. Then, oh, okay, now we need to bring the matching pillows or matching props, and then the next thing you know, oh, okay, we have a whole entire vacant condo and we need everything. So I just kind of got steamrolled into to having a staging company. Then I was, incorporating, and then we incorporated a staging company as well. So now I have this company called For the Art of Real Estate, which is basically, that's what it is, for the art of real estate. It's art and staging and real estate. So that's how it's all come together.
What a fascinating journey. Unbelievable. So, you were always artistic as a child too?
Yeah, just loved art, loved painting, loved drawing, and in art school I had to learn every discipline. But later, as my art evolved, I kind of my style is more of an abstract art.
Well, and beautiful. I see the piece behind you, and
Thank,
just stunning,
thank
stunning work.
you.
So it must have been quite a shock to come to Canada then, not even, knowing English. You've done remarkably well with your English.
No English, no French, had never worked in my life. It was definitely a wake-up call, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I think I owe every bit of my success to that hardship, to learning that I had to be, self-sufficient, and I had to have perseverance. I had to have serious grit to get where I am now. And it was just, and coming from where I come from, I definitely did not want that lifestyle. I did not. I grew up in the war. I didn't want to be a housewife. Never. That would never happen. So I needed to be independent, and I also, I had many goals and dreams, and that's, I couldn't just be an artist. I had a lot more ambition. And there was something in me. Even now, I have a hard time selling the art. I have a hard time even pricing the art, because I just feel like the second you really mix up art and money, it changes things. So I just didn't want painting and art to be my main source of income. I also had like real estate background in my family, so it naturally evolved. You know, when it actually all happened because I was very, very ill with my first pregnancy with my son 16 years ago. Very, very ill, and I couldn't work. I worked for big corporate companies and stuff. Couldn't work, and I needed to sell my condo, and I happened to hire a really bad agent at the time. And I was like, oh my God, this is so terrible. I can do so much better than this. So I ended up getting licensed in 3 months and selling it myself. So that's how I became a real estate agent. I just didn't, it was in the cards, I guess. And then I loved it. And when I started, combining the art with the real estate, bringing the painting in, it was just really when I realized, okay, this is what it was supposed to happen. This is why I have the art. This is why I have the psychology, actually, because it's such an emotional journey for all of my clients. And just bringing the art, it's like a lot of people think, oh, well, why do you need to stage it? Why does it need to look so pretty? Because it's such a highly emotional process. It's one of the most expensive investments of most people's lives. And they want to be going into a home and feeling great, feeling emotional. And that's what art does. That's why we have art, because art steers emotions. So by bringing art, matching art to different homes, it just kind of elevates the home. And as a result, it makes it really easy for my self to sell the home. It's amazing feeling to be able to have the home kind of like my mini art gallery a lot of times. And my clients absolutely love it. Many times when I've staged a home, they fall in love with a piece, and they are like, and then that becomes their closing gift. A lot of times I gift the art as a closing gift to my clients, just because, if it made, that is worth more to me than like selling it a lot of times as well. Like I think, if it resonated with them in a way, then I would like them to have it if I can. So that's just kind of become a personal kind of gift that I have made for them. And so they can keep the piece of art, and then it just kind of, their family and friends ask about the art, and they are like, oh yeah, guess what? Our real estate agent actually painted that for us. So it just kind of, the art continues into the process. And it also is my only therapy. I use art as therapy. So when I am really wound up, when I'm really stressed, and my job can get pretty gnarly at times. So that's all I need. I just need music, I need painting, and I can usually sort whatever that it's going on, and I can come out of the other side of it exhausted, because the pieces I do are massive and they're really physically exhausting, and I have some injuries in my shoulder and neck. So it just, I get physically exhausted, but emotionally very happy. And
Well,
this is
I
that.
I can totally understand the process. It all flows very nicely. And one thing I think about art is, why it would be good in staging or in houses for selling is because you usually, the person who's looking at it sees themselves in that art, like that art speaks to them personally, and
Mhm.
two people can, see
See
different
abstract art
things.
differently.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like if I was a realist painter, I don't know if I could necessarily incorporate it in every home. But as an abstract artist, it's different. We could, like you said, exactly that. Because we are usually trying to um, depersonalize the home, at the same time make the buyer highly emotional about the home. So we take all personal photos, all the personal religious stuff out. We take all personal effects of the owner out, just because we want the buyer to come in and be able to see themselves living there. And so if we put a very specific kind of realistic pieces of art, that may not quite resonate with everybody, but abstract art has that ability that people that want to see things in it, they will stand in front of my painting and say, oh, I see a penguin. Oh, I see a fish. Oh, I see a person there. And that is just their interpretation of the art. And it makes, I do some pieces, I call them staging pieces, that are just very much of a landscape pieces. Those are very, very easy and calm. Like a piece like this that is behind me, this would be hard to put on in a staging. This is very loud and very obnoxious. So
I wouldn't say obnoxious. I love the piece.
it's very obnoxious, but this is the kind of art I do. This is for me. This is therapy. This is the part that and this specific technique I use is basically it's a lot with intuition and color composition. And basically in my job every day, I have to have control. I have to be very reserved. I have everything is like agency and disclosures and confidentiality and all that, right? It's very, very black and white. So this type of painting allows me to completely lose control and just use intuition. So you cannot control this. This is not done by brushes and things. This is done with basically pour and blow dry and move the canvas around. And like, it's a very physical kind of thing that happens before the piece
Oh, that's
gets done.
amazing.
So it just basically, by losing the control, giving the control to the piece and to the paint and to the airflow, and to, then it just kind of in turn becomes really freeing for me, because, you know, like I said, everything else in my world is very structured.
So there, it's not paintbrushes, it's more like pour and
Yeah, this type of painting you see behind me is more of a, there's basically very little brushwork in there. Maybe at the end a little bit of here and there, but mostly is like I do the composition of the colors that I want or think, or the idea that I have in my head. I pour the colors. I mix the colors myself with this consistency I want, and you know, the medium, the pour medium and stuff is in it, and a couple of drops of different things that makes the bubbles happen for me. And then I pour it on the canvas. Then I use a special like head on the blow dryer to blow the paint around.
wow,
So it's pretty
that's
crazy.
fascinating.
Yeah, and then it all kinds of things. Yeah, all kinds of things like gold leaves and stuff are in there as well. But like sometimes I even use my fingers, or use a rag, or so a lot of things get used, but not a lot of paintbrushes. So at the end, maybe here and there, if I want some controlled things in there, I use a bit of paintbrush, but not a lot.
And so did you always do abstract or did you start with something else?
No, we had to. I mean, in school, we had to do every discipline. So we had to have realism. We had to have all different disciplines, different classes and things we have to do. It just, you know, I feel like to be a really, to be good at being an abstract artist, you have to understand the other um, methods. And so to be able to get there and to understand composition really well. So I had to do all those. And then, you know, this is just the path I chose in the last couple of years of my study.
And you were mentioning earlier that you show at Rome Gallery, but
Mhm.
you also show at a local restaurant with sort of an
Yeah.
artistic.
Yeah.
I'd like to
So
hear more about
just
that.
yeah, recently I found out this. I live in Port Moody in Vancouver, and it's called the City of the Arts. So there are many artists that live in the city, and this really awesome little coffee shop opened up. It's called the Grit Studio, and the owner of the coffee shop is a furniture artist. So he makes incredible pieces of furniture out of different materials. So his entire coffee shop is basically decorated with his furniture that he's made, and every single piece is a piece of art. And so what he's done for the community, he is bringing different artists and showing their work at his coffee shop. And basically, what I love about his thing is that he has combined art with coffee shop, the same way that I have combined art with real estate. So I just think more and more jobs need to bring art in. So art should be everywhere. So I approached it with that, and I just said, you know, I really love that you've done this. This is so incredible. And yeah, I just ended up. He saw some of my work, and I ended up. So now I show a few pieces there, and those are it actually, the paintings I have at the Grit Gallery are very much similar to the one behind me. Um, they are paintings that I do for me, not necessarily paintings that are neutral for staging. So yeah, it's at the Grit Studio. It's on Clark Street in Port Moody that I show.
Oh, That sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
So, what is the best advice that you've ever received during
About
your career or your personal?
um that is a tough question. The best advice. I don't know if it's an advice or if it's just or if it's just something that I have um, kind of um, come to like realize it's one of the most important things in my life, and it is just it is honesty. Like in my career, it's very very important to be genuinely honest, good or bad, about every product that's out there, like about every house, about every condo, and it just taking always choosing to make sure it is the absolute honest answer about the question that the client is asking. And that I think it has helped me grow leaps and bounds, because people know that what I'm telling them is, to the best of my knowledge, the truth. And just also living by that um, standard in my personal life, that, you know, being true to ourselves, and always operating from truth. And that has just really made things a lot easier. Like, I don't need to hide anything. This is who I am. This is what I am. And the same thing about the art too. Like my art is, at times, the reason I got thrown out of what was going to be thrown out of university in Iran was because my art was the truth of how I felt, and it was provocative, and they didn't like it. And even now, a lot of my pieces are very provocative, and I just think, well, that was the truth that was happening. And like, you know, it's just, so I think that is the principle. I think it's the most important thing, that if people can just try not to lie no matter what. I find people lie for no reason, just because it's easy. Like they just, yeah, or like they just think that that's what the person likes to hear, or they just lie for no reason.
Well, and I think society has, made it so acceptable that a little white lie is not the same as a lie. They've
Oh, it
categorized different
totally is. You see
lies.
this, if it's white or gray or black, it's all lies.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's honesty is so important. And, you know, often I would say uh, that, real estate people are a little bit unsure that honesty is the key thing. So to hear you, say that in terms of real estate, I mean, it's very reassuring, because when people are, spending such huge sums of money, especially in Vancouver, uh, you want somebody that you can trust. You
That's
want you want
exactly it.
somebody that is trustworthy.
That's exactly it. Like if they're trusting me as their designated agent with their highest value investment of their lifetime, like that is the least thing that I can give them. And I can understand it. Like I understand in many, like even in the Persian culture in Iran, like real estate agents are definitely not honest people. They're like, you know, many of them, they just, they are not very honest. Like they just basically deceive people sometimes into to different situations. So I think that is, when I am mentoring a new agent, that is the first key advice I give them. That if you are not an honest person, don't even bother with this profession, because you are going to be looking for a new client every single day, and it will be exhausting, because people can smell dishonesty from miles away, and they may deal with you once, but they will never come back to you. And the whole thing about our job is that I have clients that I'm on the fourth or fifth home with them. I have clients that I've had like a chain of 100 different families that have been introduced to me because of that one couple that I knew or helped 15 years ago. If I break that trust and I break that honesty, then I have nothing. Then that, I don't have a business. So that is the most key important piece of advice I give any new real estate agent. If you don't have integrity, if you don't have honesty, this is not the job for you. You're going to get exhausted. You're going to be sued. You're going to be in front of council, and you're going to be in newspapers. You're going to be dead. So this isn't the job for you.
And if you could learn one new thing, what would it be that you'd like to do?
Sure, I would. I think my story, my personal life story, is an interesting one. A lot of people have told me this is a very interesting story, and that it would empower so many young women. And so I would love to, because English is not my first language. I mean, my first language is no longer my first language. I can't even speak Farsi or English now. We don't know. It's really interesting. But I would love to learn how to write. So I think one of the goals I have for my retirement is paint and actually write my life story. So
Oh,
I
fascinating.
would love to. And, or if I can't, I would really love to find somebody who would publish it for me. Like I could tell the story to them and maybe they could write it, because I'm not very good at writing it. But yeah, so I think that is something I would love to learn, how to write a book.
And if you could meet anybody for lunch, who would it be?
Oh, it's a tough one. I'd say it'd have to be my dad. He was my biggest cheerleader, and he left too soon. So I would have loved for him to see where I'm at and what I did with the art.
Yes, my mom passed away a number of years ago, and I know exactly how you feel. Your life is progressing, and you so wish that person could be along with
Yes,
you for that.
yes.
Yes, yeah, very meaningful. And what do you think is the one thing that you get out of your art that um, is is the reason why you paint?
I think I already talked about it a little bit. It is painting has saved me through many different hardships. It's just always been my way of decompressing and processing, and you know and it's been my vice, basically. So it's not, I've never been a drinker, I've never used drugs. It's been painting. So it has saved me. This, I'm not sure if I'm a good artist or not, but whatever it is that happens between me and that white canvas, and in my art room, and whatever I use, whether it be paintbrush or hair dryer or a towel, or all the different things I use to make art, it is magical, and that's what has saved me.
Well, you're so fortunate because lots of people, they don't find that thing to give them that, that
Absolutely.
refuge, right?
Absolutely. It is, and I see a lot of people that are like, you know they're looking for that. They're looking for a way out. They're looking for a way to decompress and get out of their body. But it's hard to find. And you know, they start something, it's kind of boring. It just, you got to have that kind of passion behind it though, for it to be kind of, you know, providing that that refuge and that therapy. If it's not something you're passionate about, it could actually backfire. It could just get you so stressed out. And there are times that I start a piece and halfway through I'm like, this is garbage, this is disgusting, this is never gonna work. And that's just part of the process. And then at some point it turns around, I'm like, oh, it's not that bad. I can work with that, I guess, you know. And not every piece of art I put out is good. You know, there may be a select few that are good, but not every one of them are good, but every one of them are therapeutic.
Well, I find that so fascinating. I hear artists say it often, you know, like I'm not happy with it. And yet the viewer from an, like, I'm not artistic. So the viewer is looking and thinking, oh my gosh, you know, that's so amazing. So I always find it like, what about a painting makes you feel it's good or not good? Like is it an innate thing that's
It's
inside
an
you?
innate thing. It's an intuition. It's kind of like, I don't know what it is, but it is the same thing that, you know, the painting is done when it's done. And people are like, how do you know the painting is done? When do you stop painting? I'm like, I just have to feel it. I don't know when it's going to be done, but it's when it's done, it will tell me it's done. So I can't explain it. I don't have the science behind it to know what happens, that, you know, how, or people ask me, like, did you know that's going to look like that? I'm like, no. I had an idea of what I had in terms of feelings. And so some of the things that I'm experimenting with now is also painting to different feelings, and that a music will, a particular song will bring up. So this piece that I just did a few nights ago behind me, it actually, I don't normally listen to Persian music, but I was listening to this particular song. It was called Heaven, and in Farsi, and it just basically, it stirred a lot of emotions in me, because it's kind of similar to how my lifestyle is. And as a result, this happened, you know. So there's always, recently, what I'm doing is that there's always a song behind the painting. So the song has created some emotions, and those emotions, I turn them into paint on the canvas. So, but it's always intimidating when I'm standing in front of like a 48 by 60 white canvas, and you know, where it's gonna go.
Well, I think it's just a fascinating process. You know, I remember when I was younger and you would see this, I can't remember his name, but he would come on TV and he would paint, you know, a scene. And
Right. Bob Ross, I
so,
think.
yeah, Bob Ross, that's right. And so, you know, I always thought that's the way art was done. It's like you have a picture in your mind and you just paint it out. And as I've learned to, you know, as I've talked to so many artists now, is that it's exactly the opposite,
No, yeah.
especially with abstract. It's almost in you coming out.
Yes, exactly. I may just have, sometimes, like if I'm doing a landscape or something, I have a color scheme in mind that I'm trying to do, but I really don't know where it's going to end up. I just know when it's done that it's done. And that, I don't know how I know that. I just know. And the thing about, I found that even in art school, like we would have like a 4-hour window for a painting class. So we'd start a piece and then you're not visiting your piece again till like 4 or 5 days later. And it has a lot to do with your emotions. So if I was angry or stressed that day, I would start the painting, it would be completely different. And then if 4 days later I come back in a happy mood, the painting would completely get destroyed and changed and would be just totally different. So the reason I do, which a lot of artists don't, but I actually start to finish a painting. So I may be painting 8 hours in a row, but because I cannot leave that feeling that I'm having right now as I'm painting this and come back to it 3 days later and still have that same feeling, and the art will change. So unless I don't mind the art changing, I'm going to start the painting and finish it. So I have to make sure I have enough time. So that's why a lot of times because my job is nonstop, they say like, how is it to be a real estate agent? I'm like, let me text you every 5 seconds and see how you feel. With a different subject. So you have to multitask. So often I paint late at night, so I can at least have my phone turned off, and it may take 4 hours, 5 hours, or 8 hours for the canvas to be done. I don't know when it's going to be done. So that's another thing that I do that's different. That first of all, I paint with the painting down. I do not paint on an easel. I paint on a table, and I rotate around the painting. So a lot of my paintings can be vertical or horizontal because the composition will work both ways, because I've done it or walking around the painting. And then the other thing is that I start the painting and I finish the painting. I don't leave it and come back to it 2 days later. So it makes it a little bit, I guess, different than what the other artists do.
Right. Well, Katayoon, it's been fascinating. Really a pleasure to hear about such an unusual process and how it all tied together in a nice bundle for real estate.
Yeah, it's such a coincidence, but it happened, and I'm happy about it. It gives me a niche. Like, I can't say that there are a lot of real estate agents out there that are also an abstract artist. So
Uh,
it makes me very unique. It's fun.
well, thank you so much for sharing. Now, if people want to get a hold of you, Katayoon, what's the best way for them to do that?
Different ways. Katayoonwebb.com always works, because that's going to be a website that's always going to be live. My personal cell phone number is right there. But on Instagram, I can be found under Katayoon Webb. On Twitter, I can be found under Katayoon Webb, and also on Facebook under Katayoon Webb. So
Okay.
all of those things would work.
And plus, we'll have the link in the video and the article too. So, well,
That's
thanks
wonderful.
again for sharing with us, Katayoon.
Thank you so much, Ari, for having me. I really look forward to more interviews with you, maybe about other things that we need to talk about.
I would love that opportunity.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.